better as human beings. But before I continue, I'd like to call up architect Fitzgerald Umar to come up and permit me to use this word, face the firing squad. So once I call your name, I bet it's good you have a will somewhere, because I'm sure my pressmen have some cogent questions that you will need to answer. Also to accompany him, I will call on Roman Osagiale. Please let's give a round of applause as they come on. Please let's appreciate them. Also here, I will invite architect Sam Obo to join us here. Interestingly, he was on one of our impromptu TV presentations we had with Wazobia, and they interviewed him in broken English. I was shocked how he comported so well, and I began to suspect him a little bit. Thank you very much, sir. Also, one more person. These are those men. Let me soften this a little bit. Let me invite Rosemary. You can see how beautiful she is. Let her bring some sunshine in the midst of all this blackness. So, as I was saying, the architect and the regeneration of the built environment. As architects, we should be ready to move with technology. We should be ready to move with development. We should be ready to move with how our environment expands. And we should have solutions to the problems that this might also bring up. Roman, and I'm sure you lived in Lagos before. Tell us, the rate at which Lagos is developing or regenerating, how comparable is that to the international world? Are we moving as fast as we should, or do you think we can do better?
Thank you. One of the key things that we first of all need to look at is our population growth. I raised that, and the people that we have one of the highest fertility rates in the world. And it will interest you to know that Nigeria's fertility rate is about 5.7 per woman. And we are growing at a very fast rate. But the rate at which we're catching up, I would say, is very slow. And if we need to catch up with the rest of the world, first of all, the first thing we need to do is look for a way to slow down our population growth. And then we can start planning in a very good way. So, to answer your question, we are not on that fast lane. And I think we need to, that's one of the major issues the government will have to address in a couple of months or in a couple of years. Because if not addressed quickly, it's going to cause a major problem for the city.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you. Now to the chairman. Roman has poured some water on the floor, and he has told us that we are not performing as expected. I believe that this is one of the reasons why this forum is trying to address such challenges. Can you tell us more on what to expect and what the focus of this forum will be by Friday when we are closing?
Thank you very much, Bill. This year's LAF is like a follow-up of what we had last year. And this year is for us to actually walk the talk, as in let us get the details, begin to offer solution to those issues. Like I mentioned earlier during our press conference, Lagos is shrinking, not because the size, the landmass is reducing, but because the population is growing at a very fast rate. So this year's LAF, if you look at our speakers from Canada, from Netherlands, from Austria, is for us to be able to get diverse views, solutions from different parts of the world to help us see how we can deal with the issues we have in Lagos. So that's what this year's LAF is going to be all about, to get the real details and solutions and to help.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think they're performing. They're performing. Uncle Sam, I call him Uncle Sam. Please pardon me. You know, Uncle Sam is a fantastic person. He's a Nigerian, and he was a past president of the Royal East Canadian University. He's lived in Canada for a long time. He's also lived in Botswana for quite a long time too. So I believe, as an architect, he must have seen how cities have transformed from being not so developed to what they are now, or how the faces of those cities changes. You know, the face of a city can change, just like we see in Lagos now. Uncle Sam, tell us, what exactly do you think is the role of an architect in urban regeneration, especially as it pertains to our forte here in Lagos?
Thank you, Bill. I think that's a very, loaded question that, you can actually address from different parts, different layers, to it. But with respect to the role of an architect, I believe that, an architect has a very privileged, position to make sure that you do not create an elitist, kind of profession, but a profession that actually impacts, the quality of life of everyone in the community, in the society. With what you see in Lagos, I think generally we are a reflection of what the society permits. We are always a reflection of what we think, is possible, is doable. And the architects occupy a very, unique position in shaping, the direction where things can be in terms of urban regeneration. Now, when we talk about urban regeneration, you probably see an example of urban regeneration from a presentation that Bill Chomik will be giving, in the East Village in Calgary, which is one very good example. The Lagos environment itself has its own uniqueness. I don't know if you all have seen, some of the work that was done by Rem Koolhaas. It was a 5-year research by Rem Koolhaas with Harvard University on Lagos. The title is Lagos. And the premise of that research was there's something unique about Lagos that even within the chaos, if you have to use the Western standards, if you have to use the Western, benchmark as a way, I'm talking about urban, design and urban quality standard as a way of judging Lagos, for instance, most likely you will come with a fail. But the truth is that those parameters are actually not parameters that you should be using to judge Lagos, because within what you call chaotic, if you use the Western standard, is actually a system in itself that is actually very functional, very unique, very very enterprising. There is all sorts of innovation that you have within that, and I do believe that the uniqueness of the Lagos system and the response, the Lagos environment is something that the world can learn from. I've had the opportunity of doing projects here in Lagos, and I do see the creativity, the industriousness. All that is required sometimes is just being able to apply some of those industrious attitude and approach, right, in solving the problem. So I think that Lagos, as a city, is quite unique, in how it's, in its response. So I don't know if that kind of answers.
But what I hear you say is every city has a way that they respond to the challenges. and also that will determine the kind of solution that you prefer to such challenges.
This is where the architects come in, the
Yes.
creativity. So by virtue of your, okay, another way of looking at the architect is if you are in an, in an orchestra, setup, the architect is almost like the maestro who is actually able to make sure that you have the right instrument, the right tune, right, coming in at the same, at whatever time that you think they show. Your ability to actually nudge, the community in the right direction is always a very important thing. How an option is presented determines the outcome. How the architect responds with their creativity and how you shape the environment, it is actually very important, to understand that role. That you have a role in impacting people's quality of life, and that is what the premise is.
That's clear enough. Thank you very much, sir. Let's give him a round of applause. I think he did justice to the question. Rosemary, I don't know, are you from Ghana or Austria?
Both.
Both.
Okay. Yeah.
So, maybe I'll keep this question for my boss. Let me change it because it's quite. You might not. I don't know if you have the female architect, because I see a lot of female architects here. How has, and you've lived in Austria, I believe.
Yeah, Austria.
You also live in Ghana, and I think those are two different worlds.
Yeah, the way my mom and dad were, I can confirm they were two different worlds.
So your dad is Austrian?
Austrian, my
your mom
is
is
Ghanaian, yeah.
Ooh.
And yeah, we actually had to have a program which always the Ghanaian or the Austrian program. If you were going to an event, you could go with the Austrian car, which was there like 10 minutes before the program started. Or you chose the Ghanaian shuttle 4 hours later.
No, I mean that touches also in Nigeria. We try to keep to time. Okay, not 4 hours.
1 hour before.
1 hour before. I will take it. Okay, quick question, Rose. How has it been looking at Austria and coming to work in Ghana? Did you work in Austria?
Yes, we worked in Austria for 5 years before coming to Ghana.
And your husband is an architect?
He's also an architect. He is actually Austrian, but I always say he just got the wrong skin color. He's the one who loves to be in Ghana and loves all the food, the way people are, the way they are relaxed. It's just his world.
Good. So how has it been, work-wise, from Austria to Ghana? Tell us as fast as possible.
Okay, I'll try to cut it short. The main thing I say as an architect is more exciting to work in Ghana than in Austria for me, because
why is that?
Because you have so many challenges and you're forced to be creative throughout in every detail.
I hear you say that Ghana, because of the fact that there are more opportunities,
yes,
and then you can prefer solutions to regenerate
people are open. People are very open for new ideas and let you also do the work you want to do. So I mean, I find it really great as an architect. You have way more opportunities, less regulations, because you can negotiate the regulations. So that's a very good thing for architects.
Let us give ourselves a round of applause. We deserve some accolades. All right, Rose, thank you. Let me open the floor. I'm sure I have a lot of pressmen here. Gentlemen of the press, I would appreciate if quickly you tell us. Business Day. You're welcome.
Bertram Manekam of the Guardian newspaper.
Guardian newspaper, you're welcome.
Independent.
Daily Independent, you're welcome.
Adewumi from News Direct newspaper.
News Direct newspaper, you're welcome.
Manekam from the Sun newspaper.
The Sun, you're welcome.
I'm Chukwulilia from News Agency of Nigeria.
You're welcome, Lilia.
Oladipo Koyemi, Unilary FM.
Unilary FM, you're welcome. have some TV stations here, I'm sure. Well, before he speaks, he was one of those that planned the coup for Husam. So
My name is Bernard Akene, Wazobia TV.
don't look at that English, then it gives you broken. You're welcome, Bernard. I believe MITV is still going to join us, but now we can start taking questions from the pressmen. So, gentlemen of the press, please, you can give us your questions.
Morning, Bertrand from The Guardian. My question goes to the last speaker, Rose. When you talk about less regulation in your works, especially in this part of the world. So I just want to also understand much about that less regulation. Of course, whether such could aid in the regeneration as we have here or impede regeneration. Thank you very much. I don't know whether you understand.
So you want to know regarding our regulation. I mean, don't get me wrong. We as an architect are always forced to follow setting standards. So if I'm saying that you negotiate a regulation, I'm not saying in a way what will harm someone or what is not good or what is internationally not acceptable, but you still do it in Africa. I am assuming every architect will take that in consideration. It's just sometimes in Europe, you have regulation that your pitch roof has to be this degree and some kind of ridiculous aesthetics issue what they try to regulate, which doesn't always work depending on what you're building and so on. And you have to go through a tough time to get it approved. But the experience I'm having in Ghana is our regulations are not up to date. A lot is missing, but they are generally open for you to present what you want to do. And if you can convince them, look, we want to build a 12-story building in this area. It's never done. Why can't we build it? You can talk to them in a very easy way, and you get it done. It's not that we try to force something in what will not be good for the community or the area. It's just that we try to make what we think is necessary for the city, and our regulation is not supporting all that currently. But I guess we are still working on that to get it updated. Did I somehow answer your question, or? Are you good?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Musa Momo from Builders Magazine. My question is directly to the chairman of NI Lagos State Chapter. You mean architecture regeneration. I want to ask you, how do you want to disperse this information down to local people? For example, artisans, builders. What do they understand by your architecture regeneration? In which way do you want to blend them up with this development? Thank you.
Now, talking about regeneration, we're going to have artisans here on Friday, and basically what we're talking about is seeing how we can, it's a big word, but broken down into how we build, what material we use, what is the process of our building, how do we, it's just like changing how we do things. I mean, meeting more with reality other than doing things same way. So basically for artisans, they need to build right, they need to know the process of how how they need to do them and get the mentality right. It's not, we're just changing how they do their work and also understanding the need for HSC and things that they need to do.
Yes, for your information, the artisans are coming under the BCPG umbrella, that's the Building Collapse Prevention Guild, and they will be here on Friday.
Yes, I just wanted to.
That's my
My name is Joe Sand. I'm from Ghana. I'm an architect, and I like your question because I think one of the things we haven't done well as a profession is really look at. Somebody used the metaphor of an impresario, the conductor. But we've done a not so good job of engaging with artisans, even the way we present details. Most artisans can can't understand what we draw. So as a profession on the continent, I think Rosemary touched on it, we have a great opportunity to really reinvent the communication of the idea. So I like that very much, and I think we should engage them properly. Henceforth, I mean, we do all these technical drawings, only even our engineers don't understand them. How come an artisan? We should make artisans think like architects, and we think like them. So that's, I really like your contribution.
Thank you for that response. Let's give up. I think you just put the icing on the cake. We'll take the last question. You have a question? Okay, let's take his. That's the microphone. That's the microphone.
Thank you very much. My name is Olakun, and I'm all for the youths and the artisans also. I have an issue with the fertility rate being a problem. I think the fertility rate is supposed to be for business. More people, more business. So I want to tackle that. And also, I want to ask you, for the young people, how are professionals who established people collaborating with young architects, 100-level architectural students, to make them see that this is not just for the old people. Someone in 2, 3, 4 and actually have a unique design. So how are we carrying them out? Because I'm not seeing my people, the ones I have seen. Thank you very much.
Okay, before Roman answers that question, we like to challenge them. Last year we had them. This year we're going to have them. They're going to be on the lower corner of the exhibition space. Here they're going to have them do freehand sketch. When you get to see them express themselves, we also have student competition to actually test them to their level of intelligence. We also had competition for a larger bar that was demolished last year. This year we're also going to have the same thing. So we're engaging them properly. I can also tell you that Confidence has confirmed 70 students that are coming here. So we are trying our best to ensure that we get them properly.
Thank you. On one of the islands on the east coast of Alaska. Now, the base accommodated naval personnel. And those naval personnel were supposed to spy on Japanese and Russian salts and ships, right? Now, but the problem the Americans had was getting supplies to the naval personnel on that island. So somebody came up with the idea that let us introduce reindeers into the wild on this island, so that if we cannot get supplies, food, to these personnel on time, they can shoot one of the reindeer and eat. They will have meat until we can get supplies to them. So they calculated and brought in 29 reindeers from Alaska and introduced them into the wild. 9 months down the line, World War II came to an end, and they evacuated the naval personnel. The reindeers remained on the island. 2 years later, they visited the island. From 29, there were about 540 reindeers. Then, another 2 years later, they visited the island. There was a total of 1,590 reindeers. They were looking plump, well-fed. There was grass everywhere, right? Then they visited the island 2 years later. There were 3,680 reindeers. Things were still okay, right? But you could see that there was pressure on the island. Then, 2 years later, they visited the island again. There were over 5,000 reindeers. By this time, right, the reindeers had eaten all the grass into the ground. All the leaves within their reach were gone, right? And they were looking very lean. Then they visited the island again a year and a half. Guess how many reindeers there were? Only 54. There were carcass everywhere. Now, you see, resource, right? The way the earth works, there's a time limit at which everything you extract from the earth has to be replaced. Now, the way our population is growing, right, it's basically creating a huge market, as you said, but it is unsustainable, and I will explain further. if you and your wife earn 3 million each a year, your household income is how much? It's 6 million, right? And if you have, let's just say, 3 kids, right? That means the total number of people in your household is 5, right? That means your per capita income is what? 1.2 million, right? So you and your wife now decide and say, okay, you know what, let's have more kids, right? You have 3 more kids within a span of 5 years. And within that span of 5 years, they increase your salary by $500,000 and they increase your wife's salary by $500,000, right? You now have 8 people within your household, right? So in that 5 years, are you richer or you're poorer?
Very poorer.
You're poorer. And that's what's happening to us. While the economy might seem to be growing, we're getting poorer in per capita income. So that's why fertility rate, right, is very crucial. And that's why countries like China had to take that drastic step and say, you know what, 1 child. Until we are able to revive and see that growth that is sustainable, we're only going to stick by 1 child. I hope I've answered your question.
Colleague Roman, on that premise, I think it's based on the assumption that we as human beings, we are just consuming factors rather than being production factor. I refuse to actually accept that explanation with due respect, because in the first place, I do not share the opinion that, Lagos, for instance, since we're talking about Lagos, I do not share the opinion that Lagos is overpopulated. What I actually do think is there's a little bit of less organization, not applying creativity and innovation in solving our everyday problem. I always give an example. When you live in a city like Tokyo, for instance, that has a population of about 40 million and is very functional and things are happening, is a reflection of what we choose to do. In terms of, and this is where it's a challenge to architects and urban planners, that your first response is actually to solve, things that, what is important to the society. In terms of how we move, how we talk, even the whole idea that, I think when people understand when they should procreate or not procreate, when they understand why they do things, the response will be different. When you understand the people first, when we understand the people, it is actually very important that you come up with solutions to address the problem. If you address the problem in a very creative manner, everything will be. So the whole idea that, the population, we are consuming the resources and all that, look at the fact that if you're actually creating, the resources and you're actually very innovative in solving problems and consuming less, right? I think, that's the solution. But I understand this premise is more from a quantitative manner, but I'm very big on the qualitative aspect of it as human beings.
I was going to say that you are a designer, he's an analyst. So you just answered the question from a designer's point of view. He answered it as an analyst.
Yeah.
So to me, the both questions, the 2 answers are correct, depending on what side you are looking at it from. So let's give a round of applause. I'm just going to take one last question because of time. Our keynote speakers are around, and we don't want to keep them waiting for too long. We need to start looking ceremony almost immediately.
I think Mr. Sam has basically answered. I'll just quickly add to what he has said. I think basically it's not necessarily about population increase that's the problem, and it's not just here in Nigeria, it spreads across sub-Saharan Africa. I think we do have space and we do have enough resources. The problem is that population is centered on a particular area. If we eventually do something like the proper population distribution in this country to start with as a case study, then we would have so much problem. I'll give an example. Most people say Lagos is overpopulated, but then we look at it, what exactly is attracting people to Lagos State? Rural-urban migration has been going on for decades. If we can't separate architecture from politics and of course from demography. So if eventually we can have the kind of structures, the kind of development, the kind of improvements that we have in the urban areas in other parts of the country and basically in other parts of Africa, I think population will eventually move from the clustered areas to those other areas as they begin to develop. And by so doing, we won't have to perish like the reindeer who could not move from the island. Rather, there will be less pressure on these areas that are already developed and are moving to post-development, and then concentrate on building other places that are just springing up.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Positive contribution, but we have to stop now. We have to stop now because...
You can't stop now. Because that's an extraordinary comment. Because I think architects have always talked about the city. We design for the city, we think about the city constantly, and I think in Africa, we need to not only think about the city, but look at the peri-urban and the rural areas, and be centers of economy. We just can't take all the time. We need to produce wealth. That's the key thing.
Thank you, Sergio Ali. Can we stop there?
Representing Wiseman Associates. I was actually invited here, and I was thinking, what for? I don't build homes. You know, yes, I live in one, fine. But they're talking about the artisans, and then the youth. I actually do a lot of youth.
Use your mic, please.
I use a lot of. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I use a lot of youth. I do a lot of youth empowerment programs. You know, as a corporate trainer and as well for my church. And I've actually had a lot of university students approach me, and most of them are architects as well, looking for where to do their internship. I had a few that are actually going to America in the next few weeks, going to do their internship. And I'm here, I'm seeing all these companies, and I'm assuming they're all in Nigeria. And you mentioned Covenant University. What are you actually doing for the state or federal university? How have they been sensitized as to this kind of environment? I didn't hear about it, but somebody invited me, and I said I will come. And it's quite sad, because if you're a private company or you're in a private university, yes, you may be enlightened, but the future of Nigeria is with the youth. So how are you helping, and Lagos State is a pilot state, so how are you helping the state or the federal university so that the reindeers, you know, we're talking about reindeers, we need more reindeers, you know, in terms of human capacity. So how are you helping them?
Thank you very much, Ma. I totally understand your question, and part of the answer to your question is what we are doing here today. We are already engaging. It's not about bringing companies here to come and sell their product or tell us about how their product or how it works. The idea is for us to engage. I mean, for the last 20 minutes we've had here, we've seen some kind of conversation going back and forth. At the end of this program, we usually send documents to the government, which at that point we now need politicians to help us get these documents up. For the students, NIA Lagos may not be able to get money to support them. However, we help them intellectually. We help them in terms of engaging them. We're going to have over 300 students here for 3 days, trying to tell them, helping them on how they can grow in architecture and know what they're going to do in terms of architecture. Architecture is basically not money, but you need to refine. So we understand what you're saying, and part of the response is what we're doing here today. We have people from Ghana, we have people from Canada, we have people from Italy, we have people from Austria, just for us to do technology transfer and exchange in knowledge. So if you have further things we can help you with, you can meet with the ESCOs and we'll take it up from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Special thanks to our pressmen. We've always called you, invited you, and you've always come. Thank you for your support at all times, and we look forward to a more cordial relationship with the press. Our speakers and everyone that has contributed in any way, thank you very much. We are grateful. So after those first 2 rows, you are free to sit as you like. Thank you. Compatriots, Nigerians all away to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Thank you very much. Let's give ourselves a round of applause as we take our seat.
We would like to start the session. We'd like to invite to the high table the chairman of session, Architect Kitoye Ibare Akiso, who is a fellow of the NIA and past president of the Association of Consulting Architects of Nigeria, ACAN. Please join me in welcoming Architect Kitoye Ibare. We're supposed to have an additional chair. Okay, so we have our first product presentation for the morning, which is going to be given to us by Kanzai Plascon. Please join me in welcoming Kanzai Plascon.
His presence here is enormous. Thank you very much, sir. We would like to have you. Thank you, sir. Also, to accompany him, I will call Architect Charles Majoro. Yeah, we grew up seeing the both of them together, sir. So you have always been accompanying him. Do us the honor, sir. Let's give you a round of applause. He's the past president of the institute too. Welcome, sir. Consular of Austria, Nella Henstock. I told you that this morning. You're welcome. Also, we have the Deputy Consular of Italy, Grazia Bellanova. A round of applause, please. Okay, information reaching me just now is that the president, the Austrian ambassador, Mr. Werner Sefter, he is a keynote speaker, our main keynote speaker for this morning. Please join us on the other side. Let's welcome him. He has a very busy schedule, and we have to force him to join us. So thank you very much for coming. I'll also invite another keynote speaker that will be talking to us today, Bill Chamick. Please, can you come up? Okay, while we were introducing our special guests, some other very special guests also walked in. The first vice president of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Architect S. Ochono. You're welcome, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir. This way. Yes, he will meet us. Please, for time's sake, because we're really running behind time. we have a lot of facilitators that will be anchoring this forum and introduce a few of them. Bill Chomik from Canada. We have Sam Obo, he's around. Please can you stand up for recognition? Sam Obo from Canada. He's also a fellow of the Royal Institute of Canadian Architects. Thank you very much, sir. We have amongst us Roman Osagele. Roman, please stand up for recognition. Roman is a data analyst. He's loaded. I'm sure Rosemary Ortner. She's an Austrian architect based in Ghana. We have architects visiting Nigeria for the first time. We have somebody very interesting too. Morenike Olaoshibikon. She's a pharmacist, and I heard she just got an award for under 40 CEOs in Canada, in Alberta. We're going to be hearing from architect Dapo Akitunde. I've not seen him this morning. I don't know if he's here. Is architect Dapo Akitunde here? He's not. Okay. And also Sheon Oduwole. We're going to be hearing from those fantastic and wonderful facilitators. Right now, he's the chairman, Nigerian Institute of Architects, Lagos State Chapter. He's the one hosting this event, and we call him the energetic chair for days, non-stop. He has put in a lot of work in organizing this with the committee. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and invite architect Fitzgerald Umar, Chairman, Nigerian Architects, Lagos State Chapter. So to save us time, I'm going to invite him straight up for his speech. For a welcome address. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
The President of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Architect Adibe Njoko, he will join us soon. The first Vice President, Architect St. Echono. The second Vice President, Architect Enyi Benebo. The Honorary General Secretary, Architect Shams Salawa. The National Treasurer, Architect Robert Unde. Past President and past President of International Union of Architects, Architect Femi Majekodumi. Also past President of Nigerian Institute of Architects and past President of African Union of Architects, Architect Charles Majoro. Immediate past Honorary General Secretary of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Architect Abimbola Ajayi. Immediate past Chairman of the Female Architects of Nigeria, Architect Chemi Ogisi. The Governor of Lagos State Representative, I understand he's on his way. Permit me to welcome you all to this opening ceremony of Lagos Architects Forum 2018. My colleagues, distinguished speakers, special guests, partners, sponsors, exhibitors, students, visitors, and members of the press. On behalf of the Nigerian Institute of Architects Lagos State Chapter, I welcome you to the 10th edition of the Lagos Architects Forum 2018, LAF 9.0. I wish to welcome His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Kiwumi Ambode, and his cabinet for making our time to be part of this event, even though they are on their way. We appreciate the Governor and his team, especially for the good works being done in Lagos State, the increase in infrastructural development, and other works being carried out in the built environment. A warm welcome is extended to members of the National Executive Council, Nigerian Institute of Architects, as well as members of other state chapters here present. We appreciate your constant support. May God bless you all. We also acknowledge and welcome members of the allied professionals in the built environment and Association of Professional Bodies who have always been source of strength and encouragement to us. Following the success of LAF 8.0, where we discuss sustainability and social responsibility from an architectural perspective under the theme "An Architectural Autopoiesis," we simply could not move ahead this year without a comeback, without a thorough reappraisal of all the brilliant ideas that were proposed. What are the gains so far? What have been set in motion by stakeholders since then? Was it all just talking the talk, or we are working the talk? For this reason, LAF 9.0 has the theme Architectural Regeneration 1, the Lagos Response. Biologically, one form of regeneration is incomplete. When your computer operating system is updated, you are usually advised to reboot for best performance. Bringing this closer home, when you make a satisfactory addition and alteration in your CAD drawings or to your image files, it is advised to save and refresh or flatten image before venturing further. LAF 9.0 is the reboot, the refresher, and the regeneration of last year's deliberation and charges. Being the Lagos Architects Forum, it's only normal that our primary focus should be on the megacity response. Hopefully, this response will be worthwhile enough to be replicated elsewhere. We are confident that our distinguished guest speakers will do justice to this topic and provide valuable insights to the sustainable implementation. On my part as the chairman, and for the purpose of this speech, I have chosen to approach architectural regeneration from the perspective of growth in the architectural practice, especially in Lagos State. To analyze this objectively, we will need to take a holistic view of the practice in the country. How have we fared in the profession in adapting the new stimuli and growing? Are our organs deteriorating or regenerating through autopoiesis? To answer these questions, we need to face some bitter truth. There is no gainsaying that these are challenging times for the profession, with new vectors, new challenges, new stimuli emerging daily that requires prompt reaction and necessary evolution. Failure to respond and regenerate into a more resilient organism or organization can only result in systematic stagnation and eventually decay. The morbid reality could be dispelled by identifying these threats and neutralizing them. Here are some threats that have come to my mind. 1. Increased patronage of quacks due to tough economy. Many clients do not see why they should pay more for a piece of papers when a guy down the road can do this for 1/10 of the price. They believe this would leave them with more money for the actual construction of these times. If regulation is lax enough to permit this, then why not? The architect needs to be more responsive and adaptive to the situation to survive. He also has to find a way to plug in such leakage in the system. 2, a growing lack of awareness or appreciation of the profession. In a largely social media world where regular communication is key to keep one in eyes of the public and where everything is in a brand or commodity, architecture has fallen down to the pecking order of the professionals and so desperately needs to catch up. We have failed to accept that these days, when our prominence could be taken for granted, are no longer over. There is also an erroneous belief by clients that technology has taken over our functions, and such our input in the process is overrated. We have not done much to sensitize the general public and eventually build a general public who are all potential clients in this regard. Few appreciate the rigors of the design process, the painstaking effort to develop and eventually build. Up until now, many clients still wonder why they should pay so much for doodles of papers. Some value the design process only by numbers of sheets submitted and not actually the content of the drawings. This is a global challenge, but architects in many developed countries are finding ways to adopt and adapt and educate. Over here, we appear more constrained. 3, misconception from various quarters that our local architects cannot handle high budgets, modern and complicated structure. When I recall how many of the towering landmarks in Lagos were done by local architects in the 70s and 80s, I wonder where this notion came from. Probably the propagators feel we have been left behind. So many years ago, a prominent individual asked a friend of mine whether local architects could produce good quality perspective and realistic 3D animations. To me, this is more unfortunate than amusing. When you look at it, you cannot really blame him for asking. You cannot fault him for looking elsewhere for a solution. Probably there is no one to educate him. Of recent, we have spent more time on internal bickering than enlightenment, while the public waits impatiently to seek counsel abroad. Houses need to be built, offices, factories, and malls need to be designed, and nobody here is telling them how. 4, dwelling remuneration of staff in firms. This is an offshoot of the previous issue earlier mentioned. When fees and commission drops, salaries, increments, and bonuses are affected. If we fail to adapt to ensure that our condition remains favorable, it will become difficult to retain good staff and probably remunerate them. There will be high turnover of personnel and layoffs. These disengaged and disillusioned architects will still need to survive and have families to cater for. At this time, the primary need becomes the most important and not commercial and not professional ethics regarding fees. As more young architects join the job market and struggling for clients on the other, there is more competition over little commissions and more compromise over professional fees in order to survive. The desire for professional tutelage also becomes less appealing because harsh realities bite. Hence, a vicious circle is created, which can only be stopped by the architect himself. It is our hope that the intervention program that was presented to the Lagos State government is is implemented will help solve this problem. 5. Incursion of professionals in the traditional practice of architecture. As the world evolves, certain developments are inevitable that requires the architect to become more creative, to adapt in order to retain his role and position in the building industry. For example, in certain new methodological of project management, the architect is no longer the main design developer, but just a contributor like everyone else. Finally, the lack of succession and effective partnership in firms. This is a sensitive area in this part of the world, which I recalled was touched by Professor Architect John Godwin, OFR, at the Lagos State chapter end of year party several years ago. It is not only peculiar to architectural firms in our country, but to companies in general. Dedications and commitments are usually more assured with promise of reward. When this is lacking, commitment to one's future in the company is tricky. Thus, there are more sole proprietorship than partnership in Nigeria. Many global organizations are more confident in engaging partnership and limited liability companies to handle massive projects for obvious reasons. Evidence of succession plan, better risk management. For example, if the principal passes in a mid-project or incapacitated, and need for structure has caused many architects to lose out in bids and other project consideration. The idea that I can do it alone will only take us far. If Zaha Hadid, for example, had no structure or succession plan, her firm would not still be handling projects posthumously today. In today's world, brand is everything, and her brand evokes confidence, which still keeps her firm afloat long after her death. This goodwill will ensure that the loved ones and staff who have remained committed all those years are catered for as long as they maintain. Recommends consideration to ensure our architects and firms continue to grow and regenerate for survival of our profession. We can no longer continue to pretend that all is well when the profession and environment is suffering. So, as LAF 9.0 commences, I leave you with these few words on one aspect of architectural regeneration. I enjoy all stakeholders to share the vision, their works towards the evolution and survival of our noble profession in Lagos, in Nigeria, and in our world today. On behalf of the members of the Nigerian Institute of Architects Lagos State Chapter, I wish you all a great and exciting experience at this year's Lagos Architects Forum with the theme Architectural Regeneration 1, the Lagos Response. Let's join hands to move Lagos forward. Ìtẹ̀síwájú Èkó ló jẹ wá lógún. Long live the Nigerian Institute of Architects, long live Lagos State, long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Arrived, and he's no other person but Architect Remy Adebo. Please rise for recognition. He's the Deputy Director of Architectural Services. In our midst, we have past chairman of Lagos State Chapter. I want to call for recognition Architect Ibari Akison. He's the past president of ACAN and also the past chairman of Nigerian Institute of Architects Lagos State Chapter. You're welcome, sir. Also, we have Architect Ruti Delano. Is he here? Architect Ruti is a past chairman of NI Lagos State Chapter. Yes. Okay, I guess he's still on his way. We have Architect Benebo as the past chairman of Lagos NI Lagos State Chapter. Okay, let's welcome our president. Mr. President, you're welcome. The president, Nigerian Institute of Architects, Architect Festus Adibe Njoku. You're welcome, sir. PNIA, FNIA. Also, Architect Benebo is a past chairman of Nigerian Institute of Architects Lagos State Chapter. We also have Architect Abimbola Ajayi, who happens to be the immediate past Honorary General Secretary of Nigerian Institute of Architects. You're welcome, ma'am. We have Architect Ladipo Lewis. I also believe he's on his way. Or is he here? Architect Ladipo Lewis. He should be on his way. Before we now have Architect Fitzgerald Kumar. So that's a brief history of our chairpersons that have propelled Lagos to the world. Let's just give all of them a round of applause. I think they're fantastic people. Before I call up Mr. President, I'll just allow him a few seconds to catch his breath. I want to introduce my co-compare, Architect Tusi Oshinowo. Tusi, let's give her a round of applause. Right now, Architect Adibe Njoku. You're welcome, sir. Come on.
Distinguished guests, the Austrian ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Werner Selta, Deputy Consul Italy, Grazia Bellanova, the Commercial Council Austria, Nella Henster, our revered past President Femi Madekudini, and Hector Charles Majero, past President Nigerian Black Architects, and the past President IUA, past President AUA, First Vice President, Second Vice President, Architect, my first Vice President is S.T. Chono, and Architect Benebo, I can't see him. Okay. Yeah. Fellows of the Institute, Chairman Lagos State Chapter, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, today, I'm sorry I kept you late. It's not exactly my fault. It's your traffic. I say you are renovating your city very, very well, and it took us longer to get here. We are here for the Lagos Architects Forum, LAF 9.0, which is taking place in 2018. And now I've started attending from about 6.0, and we are 9.0 now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to LAF 9.0. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 2018 edition of Lagos Architects Forum tagged LAF 9.0. LAF has been a yearly event for architects, not only in Nigeria, but now spreading across the globe, that has now have a capacity to take orders and to have the impulse of all Lagos wishes to respond or is responding to the new approach in our cherished and ever-changing profession with emphasis now being put on regeneration design approaches or regenerative architecture. LAF has always been a melting point where design ideas are intermingled with new developments in building materials or technology, leaving the architect with more option of in-depth variety of applying this information to his design processes. The accompanying seminars and building materials expo are therefore of much more interest to any architect. For me this year, the seminar, New Directions for Building Materials Technology, captures my complete attention, especially with the Nigerians of Architects' drive to create new uses for our local materials in the art and woven industry to be incorporated into the building material of our home-based affordable housing. I've always been a dreamer, and sometimes my imagination runs very wild. I found myself watching a spider web and thinking, suppose we can get a chemical we can apply to this spider web and it becomes as strong as steel. Then I can have my buildings in the air and use the ground for whatever I want to do. Well, I believe that if we put thought into research of that chemical will one day come out. So one will not rule out the success of this dream if we pursue with tenacity this dream of trying to say, what can we do to this spider web to make it strong? That is the birth of research, and that is the birth of a new technology. I believe that the new direction of building materials technology will hold the key to architectural independence, because building materials sort of cage us in. If we can liberate that, it will bring us to architectural independence. We can fly away, no more limits. Having arrived here for this epoch-making event, I welcome our resource persons from every part of the globe, from the government and from the profession, as I believe that the fruits of LAF 9.0 will be repeated in years to come, will be reaped in years to come, to take architecture to a greater height in this country and beyond. Thank you very much.
While we also have the use of the blues and the grains, but you notice we have the more calming blues, the more calming grains. It was the year where we also saw the use of so many neutrals. But when neutrals were used during this period, they usually set against your darks. You know, like your earthy layered darks, something like your burnt orange hair, you know, and the likes, and the green you can see in the picture. During this period as well, we also saw the use of lots of metallic colors, but mostly like your bronzes and your coppers, etc. In 2016 was the age typically known as your eco-reactive era. You know, so designers typically sought inspiration from the past. They got their color inspiration also from nature, essentially. So you see lots of greens and lots of oranges and reds and yellows during this period. It was also the period where we had the use of more moody colors, like you'd see in this picture here, and the colors which were pretty much essentially vintage types during 2016.
Going on to 2017, 2017 was the year of our millennial pink. I don't know if you all remember. We had so many pinks. Pinks was just everywhere. We also had the very extensive use of our pastel colors and our neutral colors as well in 2017. In 2017, metallics were also pretty much popular, but we had more of our golds and our silvers and the likes. Now, where we are in 2018. So the color forecast, the global color forecast for 2018, it's been said that this year was going to be influenced a lot by our need to connect with nature. Because increasingly, designers and architects alike are beginning to see why we should connect with nature. Due to the increase in urbanizations, humans are beginning to interact less and less with nature. So the need to instill balance into the lives in general has become primary focus this year. So this year we're going to see lots of interaction between your warmer colors. When I say your warmer colors, we're talking about reds or oranges or yellows, and then also with the cooler colors, which are your greens, your blues, your violets. Yes, thank you, JJ. So I'm going to talk to you about who you are, who we are, strong sense of cultural identity. We're very occupied the social media space. You know, we're also very trendy in terms of if a car comes out today, there's a Nigerian somewhere who owns it already. So we like to be hip and know what's happening. And in terms of colors, we're very, very expressive and we like prints. So for example, typically when we have expatriates come to Nigeria and they need to pick an Ankara, for example, they usually go for the more muted tones. Unlike a Nigerian, they'll probably pick your bright. I think I can see someone already in the audience. And Nigerians, we love the good life. We work hard, we play hard as well. So what I'm going to do now is to take you through the last 4 months, what we've seen pan-Nigeria across all our color cafes in terms of color data. So this shows essentially what people are buying in the last 4 years. So I'm going to tie that into the global forecast for the year. So you'd see we still have people still trying to play safe, still buying lots of neutral colors. But when we compare this data to what obtained last year, there was actually a 3%. You know, your vibrant colors, your rich colors. We also see that interaction happening this year as well. One very interesting thing we've noticed this year is compared to last year, when they're using these bright and vibrant colors, they usually limit it to your feature walls, one single wall. But this year we actually see people coming in and they actually build an entire space in a red, in an orange. So it's very interesting to see. For the rest of the year, as compared to your vintage, we do expect to see, of course, maximalism is going to be on the rise because we're going to see people using more prints, especially the more floral designs. We're going to continue to see this sustained interaction between your colors, people mixing the warmer with the cooler colors as well. And pretty much this year, the themes for this year in terms of color is there's going to be lots of full expression in terms of youth, in terms of culture, in terms of community, and people beginning to break out of their boundaries and comfort zones. In conclusion, at Kansai Plascon, you know, at the very core of our passion lies, you know, our quest, our zeal to transform people's spaces. And on a larger scale as well, you know, we also seek to beautify society one building at a time. So feel free, if you'd like to continue this conversation, I'll be on the corner stand. Feel free, please, to engage me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kansai Plascon. Okay, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for the morning session, Mr. Werner Snefner. I'm just going to read out quickly a bit of his bio. Okay, he was born in 1970 on the 23rd of July. He is the current ambassador for Austria and Nigeria. He was appointed in 2016 And then before coming to Nigeria, he worked as the Deputy Inspector General at the Austrian Foreign Ministry. In previous postings abroad.
What a long CV, huh? Dear Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honored to be able to participate in the opening of the Lagos Architects Forum LAF. I have heard 9.0, which seems to be the largest and most important event in architecture and construction in Nigeria, I have heard. And I think this is mainly due to the efforts the chairman, Fitzgerald Umar, has displayed together with his team over the past at least 9 years, I would guess. Thank you very much for inviting me here. But I think the main reason I stand before you is that this year I thought I would actually be joining an Austrian exhibition and not a Nigerian exhibition, because if you have a look down there, you will see it is about 12 Austrian companies participating in this year's LAF 9.0. I also understand that Austria is the only country which has deployed such a big architectural team to Nigeria. So I think we should give a special applause to all those Austrian participants. Let me also briefly introduce all those 12 Austrian companies participating here, but maybe start with one half Austrian company sitting here. She was already introduced to you. It's Ms. Rosemary Ortner from Ghana, who is participating a little bit hidden under an Austrian flag because she has her own architectural office in Accra, but joined us here as well. So let me give you a brief overview of the Austrian companies participating. There is a company called Brucher, and it mainly offers panels for roofs and walls and facades. And then there is a company which some of you might know because it's been active in Nigeria for quite some time with the name Doka, and with the name Doka for the ladies again, which is a global leader in formwork technology and which is very active in the region here. Then we have a supplier of steel doors and fire protection, which is the company named Domoferm, and we have another company for decorative home lighting, which is called Eglo. I already met a representative of a company called Fritz Egger, which produces wood-based panel products, wood construction materials. Then we have a company called Herz Armaturen, which is a manufacturer of valves and fittings for domestic heating, air conditioning, and sanitary appliances. And some of you might have heard this a company called Wertheim, which produces some small safes for private homes, offices, and commercial clients, but also for embassies, just like ours in Abuja. So you will find more information on these companies in a newsletter which our trade office in Lagos has produced. And most of those companies are new to Nigeria, and they're hoping to find partners and distributors. So I very much hope that you find Austrian products and solutions interesting and suitable for you. But above all, I should like to wish the organizers a very successful LAF 9.0 and inspiring discussions on the Lagos solution to architectural regeneration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause. A round of applause.
We would like to acknowledge the presence of Architect Chioma Wagu Ogbona, who is the National Public Relations Officer for the Nigerian Institute of Architects. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of Architect Asomba Andrew, Chairman of River State Chapter. Can we please give him a round of applause? And also the presence of the Media Past Chairman, Student Affairs Committee, Architect David Manjekudumi. Can we please give him a round of applause?
Also, we want to welcome to a round of applause, especially the newly inducted Lagos Fellows. We have free Wi-Fi because we don't want it to be far from your businesses. If you check your phone, you will see it. LAF 2018 is the free Wi-Fi, and I'll read out the password very quickly. Lagos in capital, number 9, point number 01. It is case sensitive, so your Lagos has to be in capital for free Wi-Fi. So if you get our free Wi-Fi, please feel free to download our app, Lagos State Chapter app, on iOS and on Google Play Store for Android users. Also, you can visit our website for more information about us on www.nia-lagos.org. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn at NIA Lagos. So we can continue. If you look into your bags, we have this special card inside it. It contains all the information of the companies that are exhibiting. Once you go round, because very soon we are going to have the governor's speech and he will cut open the... He
graduated from the University of the British Columbia with distinction in 1978, winning the Alpha Roche Gold Medal. He has 40 years experience in architecture, overseeing the design and construction of over 700 buildings, including the development of a number of institutional facilities throughout the world. Please join us in welcoming Bill Chomick.
Good morning, everyone. Dignitaries, architects, everyone here this morning. I bring you greetings from my architect friends and colleagues in Canada. Yes, it's cold in Canada. I also bring you greetings from personal Nigerian Funmi and Biba, who is from Nigeria and now living in Canada. She sits on a board that I sit on, the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board for the City of Calgary. And she texted me to remind all of you to say, thank you, Nigeria, for buying so much wheat from Canada and for supplying so much oil to Canada. We don't buy our own oil, which is strange. The Indians will know that. And to say Oshe all the time to everyone without exception here. Regeneration is a complex word. It is both positive and visionary at the same time. In the context of our profession, that is the profession of architecture, it points to two main ideas for me. The first is reinventing ourselves personally to be able to offer broader and more specific skills which will allow us to generate new work and also to get a greater sense of self-worth. Secondly, it means applying our current and emerging skill sets as architects to our communities to make them better places to live, to work, and to play. Architects the world over are finding new opportunities to employ their skill sets to broader environmental design matters. One of the areas that has re-emerged is master planning. We've given that up in the past few decades, I believe. One-time architects used to create large master plans, and through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, early into the 2000s, we lost a bit of that, and now we're beginning. Foundation began a decade ago. The spectacular result is drawing global attention. Next slide. This morning I will walk you through the East Village story, including its history, its players, yes, many of them architects, the innovative funding mechanism that allowed the project to prevail, the creative master plan that drives all design decisions, the land strategy, infrastructure development and public spaces, retail strategy, cultural amenities and public art, brand development, placemaking, and what the future holds for the community. I truly hope that you will gain a new appreciation for the emerging and significant role architects today are playing in the creation of environments that go well beyond buildings. Next slide. East Village is Calgary's oldest community and where the city first began. Here's an image of East Village 50 years ago, and do you have a laser pointer? Is that a laser pointer? So you can see here in the foreground, this is East Village. Back in 1967, it was a fairly industrial area. It was tucked up against the downtown, and you can see how the downtown has changed from that first slide that I showed you in a very short period of time. The oil and gas industry in Canada made Calgary explode. It boomed, starting in about 1970 right up until today. So it was a fairly active but industrial part of town. Next slide. In 2008, East Village had actually degenerated significantly. Industries moved out. All the small homes that were there along the river were all removed. The area became a place for homeless people to live. Drug dealing occurred there. It was a major blight on the city. And the city of Calgary decided that since it was so close to the downtown and part of the downtown, that something needed to be done. CMLC was formed by the city of Calgary in 2009, so that was a year after this picture was taken, with the mandate to lead the revitalization of the Rivers District, a 504-acre parcel of land on the edge of the downtown core and surrounded by the Bow and the Elbow River. So you can see the one river in the background there coming in, that's the Elbow River, and then right in front of us, underneath this building that you see in the front ground, there's the Bow River there. So the two rivers come together and form the boundary of East Village. CMLC's mandate was to execute the Rivers District Community Revitalization Plan, a public infrastructure program approved by the City of Calgary and the province of Alberta to kickstart Calgary's urban renewal. Next slide. Next slide. Here's the Rivers District. Go up a little more. There we go. So the Rivers District includes East Village, Victoria Park, and the Calgary Stampede grounds. For those of you who've ever heard, we have the biggest rodeo in the world every summer called the Calgary Stampede. And it includes a gray area as well, which will go to this area only. The money will not go and be spread out throughout the entire city. But because the area didn't have very much of a property tax base, it annexed the piece of land to on the top right-hand corner that's in gray, and it included in that bump out the largest office building in Calgary, brand new, designed by Norman Foster, 200,000 square meter building, and said, we'll include that so that the property taxes from that building will help East Village develop. So since 2007, CMLC has committed approximately $357 million to East Village. And this in turn has attracted $2.7 billion of planned development so far that's expected to deliver $755 million of revenues to the City of Calgary. So it was a win-win. At some point, when the area is fully developed, the tax base will revert back to the entire city. But for now, to build this special place, all the taxes in that area go specifically here. Many things had to be done to make this work. Next slide. So in 2009, the city of Calgary, up a little more. There you go. The city of Calgary put out an RFP, an international competition, and it was won by Broadway Malyon from London to develop a master plan for East Village. Their plan established the framework for redeveloping East Village into a vibrant, mixed-use, creative city neighborhood, an urban village and one of the most dynamic areas within Calgary's downtown core. East Village is 49 acres. The master plan was unveiled, this master plan was unveiled in 2009. This master plan represents CMLC's approach to the revitalization of the east end of downtown Calgary and a desire, based on public and planning consultation, to bring the area to life in an urban village. It respects the many other studies, known constraints and opportunities for this part of Calgary, and provides a framework to achieve the objectives set out in the East Village Area Redevelopment Plan. What's interesting here is we all see mixed use typically as residential and commercial, office, retail. That's how we typically see mixed use. The city said we're going to create a mixed use environment here which is richer than that. We're going to introduce institutional buildings, cultural buildings into the master plan. And so when the city had to make decisions about building a new music center, building a new library, building a new innovation center, they said, we're putting these in East Village so that we actually create a community that is fuller than simply historical, physical, and social context. To date, approximately 800 to 1,000 new residential units have been completed. We've seen one there. Next slide. The land strategy. So to realize the master plan, and architects were involved in these decisions as well. The city actually engaged members of our profession to help with the land strategy, with the tax strategy, and that proved to be very beneficial in the long term because the architects actually. So to realize the master plan, CMLC conducted a targeted expression of interest to developers across Canada who had the financial capacity, expertise, and experience that would support the realization of the master plan. So following the release of this master plan itself, 2010 and 2011, most of the developments from Vancouver and Fram and Sloper from Toronto. Interestingly, no Calgary developers stepped up to the plate. This was too new, too different, too risky for them. However, in places like Vancouver and Toronto, older cities in Canada, this kind of regeneration had been happening for some time. So the developers there were happy to come to Calgary and do this. In 2012, the East Village Experience Center opened as a joint sales center. Next slide. To provide a collaborative space for the potential buyers to learn about the community and the residential product offerings from the CMLC's developer partners. And this is one of my projects that I designed. It was the first building actually built in East Village back in 2010. Next slide. So since 2009, CMLC has invested $357 million into infrastructure and placemaking initiatives in the community. The groundwork was laid literally to attract and spur new investment in the district and distribution. The city had to raise the entire level, first of all, of the area so that the flooding would actually not happen anymore off the Bull River. And that's a very expensive proposition because it meant new services, new roadways, all kinds of things that goes with raising land like that. New streetscapes and roadways to create a more pedestrian-friendly environment. Development of public spaces across the community creates places for events and programming and to address social changes in the area. Riverwalk, Phase 1, completed in 2011, re-established access to the Bow River and created desirable riverfront development parcels. A long lost island called St. Patrick's Island that was unused was found between East Village and the zoo on the river, and it was rehabilitated and turned into a beautiful park as part of this development. Again, all paid for by this innovative. Here's a park that's been created, and I brought my own grandchildren there. It works. It's beautiful. Next. Here's an example of the river walk. So you can see how East Village ties into the river now. People can sit on those steps. Performances on the water happen, on stages on the water, and people sit along here. So there's been a real connection made between the river and East Village itself. Next slide. Here's part of St. Patrick's Island, this island that nobody did anything with ever, and they discovered it and said, we'll make a park out of it. And they had to connect the park with the bridge, and that's the bridge that connects the park. We have a better picture of that later. Next. Little parkettes existed all over, or were built all over the place. I mentioned that before. Next. There's a community garden here, so if you're a resident of East Village, you can rent your square and you can plant gardens. This was taken last summer. Now, they have a problem, of course. It's not people that come in and steal the lettuce. It's the rabbits and the deer that come along the river that make their way into the garden and have their feed. But for the most part, it's really a lovely and has totally been embraced by people. In fact, people moved to East Village because they have these kinds of amenities now. Next. Here's a picture of the bridge. This was designed by Perkins and Will through a design competition in Calgary. And that connects East Village with this newfound park, St. Patrick's Park. Okay, you can leave it on this slide for now. So the retail strategy is as follows. East Village is guided by a detailed retail strategy that guides the type and amount of market-supported retail for the community. The strategy is two-pronged. There's a village format, which provides smaller, independent, specialty retail like coffee shops, boutique shops, and so forth. And there's an urban format retail for larger stores like a convenience store, for grocery, etc. Those are all being built. The first retail opening in East Village, next slide, was the restoration of the Simmons building. Simmons is a mattress company, a historic warehouse building on the edge of the Bow River. This building was restored and reopened as a bakery, a coffee shop, and a darn good restaurant, I must say, by local businesses and owners and brands. The opening was tied to coincide with the first residential project being completed in 2015. So that's that. Next. East Village plan called for the inclusion of key cultural amenities. I mentioned that to you earlier. In order to realize the vision of creating a vibrant downtown community behind what is called an innovation center. And this innovation center is an incubator for new businesses that want to start up in town. There is a makerspace going in there. If you know the concept of makerspace, it allows people to come and use sewing machines and skill saws and table saws. They can make furniture. There are labs in the building and so forth. So it's an incubator environment. You pay very little money for it. You have it for a short period of time, and then you can go out and start your own business. So that's something that we're doing in East Village as well. And the last one is the next slide, please. The restoration of 4 historic buildings. This is one of them. This is the St. Louis Hotel. It is the offices of CMLC at the moment. But no old buildings were knocked down. All the old buildings were incorporated into the master plan, and they have all been renovated since then. So to help kickstart the development of cultural amenities in the community, temporary art space for performance and working space was provided in the community, and on the main floor of this building is one of those spaces. Next slide. The East Village Master Plan also called for the inclusion of public art to create a defining character in the community, mark entry points into the community, and surprise and delight visitors and residents. To date, 3 permanent public art installations are in place following international RFP calls, and a curated program allocates spaces for temporary installations by local artists. You can see some examples here. you see the Foster building in the background in the top right-hand corner. That's helped pay for all of this for the most part. You can see an installation in the bottom right-hand corner by a local artist, Ron Moffat. That's a large ceramic tile installation along one of the streets. The sculpture in the bottom left-hand corner is, I think it's a Danish artist. So again, we talked about artisans this morning getting involved. Artisans are heavily involved in the development of East Village, and this sculpture on the bottom right-hand corner has created lots of controversy by the environmentalists. Apparently geese are disturbed when they fly over them. So they were going to move the sculpture, but there was such an outcry by the community that they left it. The heck with the geese, they could fly somewhere else. Next slide. The place brand of East Village is the articulation and communication of what makes the neighborhood what it is. Clear in its identity and its difference. If a master plan, zoning, density, setbacks, and traffic circulation are the critical hardware of place, place branding is the software of sights, sounds, culture, and experiences surrounding the built environment that work together to form a unique sense of place. East Village, East and the Rivers District, the ambitious focus on community programming and events has played a key role in connecting Calgarians back to the downtown, infusing the area with palpable magnetic energy. Over 80,000 visitors come to East Village each year through over 100 events per year. The East Village Container Park, next slide, was opened in 2017 and serves as an example of temporary interventions designed to activate vacant spaces in the community prior to new development. So rather than leaving the land vacant and sterile before development begins, the East Village group is bringing in things like these shipping containers, for example, and they're allowing artisans to rent them at a very low cost, and so some of them are retail, some of them are food, some of them are artisans selling their wares as well. It's a very, very interesting concept. And in the evenings there are music performances in their spaces as well. So with the momentum underway in East Village, CMLC has expanded its focus to the balance of the Rivers District into East Victoria, which is a 228-acre parcel of land south of East Village that is envisioned as Calgary's cultural and entertainment district. Next slide. So we've seen this slide before. This is the Rivers District, the area where CRL funds are collected and invested into new development. So that program that made East Village so successful is now working its way south into Victoria Park and the Calgary Stampede grounds. Yes, and all that tax money will stay in that area to make the streets, to make the utilities, to plant the trees, to do everything that has to happen. So the developers say, my goodness, this is a beautiful place to come and build my building. CMLC is in progress with the master plan vision for this portion of the district, taking a similar approach that brought East Village back to life. And here's a small example, next slide, of one of the master plans, many master plans created with the overall master plan for what is called a youth campus on the Stampede grounds. And again, this is under construction as we speak, so the energy and the vibrancy that's been created in East Village is working its way into other parts of the area as well. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, East Village has become a global benchmark for the successful regeneration of a blighted urban area. Architects have stepped outside the box to play a seminal role in this regeneration by preparing the master plan, by assisting CMLC with various development and operational strategies, policymaking and branding, integrating art into the overall experience, and designing urban spaces, urban elements, and buildings with quality, with innovation, and creativity as design drivers. This model can readily be replicated in other cities where physical renewal and invigoration of a degenerated urban environment is envisioned.
I feel so humbled by that introduction. And I must say, it's a rare privilege having to sit with our fathers in the industry, in the architectural profession. It's a rare privilege indeed. Please permit me to stand on existing protocols. I have the mandate of the Honorable Commissioner, Works and Infrastructure, Engineer Ade Akisoya, who is on the state assignment right now. So I have his mandate to deliver this speech on behalf of His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Akim Ambode. Dear architects, participants, and special guests, it is an honor to be in your midst. On behalf of His Excellency, Governor Akim Ambode, I wish to say thank you for inviting me to this event. The Governor extends his sincere apologies as he wishes he could be here, but is unavoidably absent, and he has asked me to represent him. The Lagos State Government acknowledges you, architects, and recognizes the vital roles you play in our built environment. No doubt, without architects in the city will be boring and in chaos. We appreciate you all. It is no news that the government is working towards transiting from a mega city to a smart city. The current government is geared towards achieving a mega city status, and it all starts with you, our leaders of the built environment. Your team, architectural regeneration, is very relevant and in line with the government's approach towards creating the mega city. Our plans for regeneration has led us to embarking on various projects in and around the state, including some laudable projects such as the Ilubirin residential scheme, or Reshoki mega transport hub, the transformation of Ekpe, revitalization of Oshodi, just to mention a few. The Lagos response is unique, as you can imagine, as we are a city with a growing population on the steady rise every day. It is our goal and vision to provide an environment sustainable and comparable to any around the world. We know we cannot do this alone by ourselves, but with the help of professionals such as you to partner with us to achieve this goal. I am extremely glad and elated to see you architects taking up the challenges and deliberating on solutions at this forum, and look forward to receiving feedback which you hope to be able to implement for the good of our city. It is our dream that all architects have a place in the Lagos history of today, and with the help of government, we plead to support you and your great initiatives. We hope to be one day like Dubai, where architects have found a heaven. I have been privileged to have insights into what you do, and I must say it is an underappreciated profession. I wish we had more architects in the public service, and hope some of you will join us pretty soon. I have seen quite a bit of exhibitions working up to this stage, and it is quite interesting to know some of the things we go abroad can also be found here locally. On behalf of His Excellency, I wish you fruitful deliberations and a successful.
Stop this now. Press it back.
Hands on it, hands on it. President, hold on.
Glory of God. We want to declare this exhibition open on behalf of the President, other executive members, the Chairman of the Lagos State chapter of the Nigerian School of Architects. We declare this exhibition open.
Thank you very much, sir. So we go back upstairs now to continue the session.
Give me a bag, please. Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you very
Where's your go-to?
I do. No, but really, I find it actually about advanced technology for building, for residential and industry, and for solar as well. So, we are part of our solution. Thanks very much.
Showcasing our technology. Thank you very much. Yes, do we have We can discuss that too.
As a company, you must reside in an office, and as an individual, we must live in a house. How do real estate become a very big business? Commercial houses for companies and for individuals. And I come to realize that many people don't even know that we're into property business.
For the movement presentation, all delegates,
what the public
come up and make a presentation.
We put an extra mile to ensure that whoever is developing the property is whatever people are bringing fund of genuine source. And as well as the landed property that you are developing is free from the programs. So if you get into buying the real estate through us, peace of mind to the public, and we deliver quality of the kind of houses with pocket friendliness. This is an episode. Yes, this one is important.
All delegates, please join us.
Sorry.
I'm sure I must be here. No matter what happens. They're coming. Thank you. Chairman.
So tell us what you do.
What do you do?
So you can sign up on it. This is Q Railing. One of our partners.
We've done a lot of radio jobs in Lagos, Nigeria, and even outside Nigeria. So welcome to our story.
Thank you very much. Do you have something to give us, catalogs?
After Sika,